So far we're getting errors, but we're not being able to display none of them. So let's create a few middlewares that is going to display the errors for us. First let's do a middleware for not found, like a 404 page. So again, export const because we're going to do it somewhere else. So not found. That's the response and next. Let's create a const for error. And we can create a new error and just say whatever you like. 404 page not found. And then we need to change the error for the status. It's a 404. And then we can call the next and pass that this error. So here's the thing. This is not going to do anything if you don't have another function below that is going to handle this error. So let's create a middleware that's going to use this error from here. Call it default error handler. So we're gonna respond with status or 500. It's either gonna have a error or you're gonna call internal server error, which is the 500, and then we can send it back the message. For this one we don't need next because this is gonna end with the send over here, but you also need to get the error, which is another thing that you can get on a middleware, and then you get a request and then a response, and then you call something else, which is the next. But here we're gonna end with the send. So this one, it's passing this error down to the next one, which is gonna log the error, and this one is gonna finish the middleware stack. So let's import into our app so we can use it. Import from middleware. Here we have not found and also the log errors. For the errors, you need to add it after your routes because it needs to catch the errors from the routes. So do app.use not found and app.use log errors. Here we're not calling a function, we're just passing the middleware. The middleware is an actual function, and here is our error stack, handlers. So now if you save it, and let's try to run something and crash our application. So I'm just gonna close this one so we can see our terminal. Now it's running. Save it, it's okay. So if I go some page that doesn't exist, I get the 404 and page not found. That's the message we passed over here on the middleware. And we also get it on the server log as well. So to recap, what these two middlewares are doing, this one is catching the error from any kind of page. If the route doesn't exist, it's gonna create a new error. This is a text, changing the status code, and then passing the ball to this next function over here. And this function is gonna either have this status from here. Because it's an error, it has to be either internal or you need to specify it as we're doing over here. So 500 is internal server error. So it's gonna be either this one or that one, and then you're sending a message. So to continue, let's get a little bit deeper. We're gonna do, if you see here on our resource user controller, we are using the try catch all the time. Here, in every function we are using this, because the async await, if you don't catch the error and something happen, it's gonna break your app and you're not gonna know what's happening. So anyways, we're gonna create a function that's gonna wrap this route, and then it's going to get us that error, so we don't need to repeat ourselves all the time. Here the order doesn't matter, so let's start. We're gonna create, you can call it whatever you like. I'm gonna call my catch errors, and here it's gonna take a function which is our route function, and I'm gonna pass it to another function. So this function over here is this. So you're getting this information and we are passing down here. Now we need to wrap it inside the middleware function. If you remember, is a request, response, and the next. That's why we are wrapping that function in here, because we need the next. Now, because the async await always returns a promise, we need to get the try catch, so we can actually get the error. So here's going to be that function, request response. If there is no error, we're just going to pass the function the way it was. But if it calls our error, we're going to catch the error with the next and pass the error down. Same as we did over here. We're passing the error to this function to display it. So basically, to recap, here we're getting the function from here. And then you're wrapping it inside the middleware function, like this one we created. Because you're doing async await, we are going to use the try catch to either, if there is no error, we don't do anything. But if there is, we getting the error and send it to this function. So now to try, we just need to come over here, remove this try catch blocks. So I'm just going to remove all of them. So remove the try and then this two over here. So I'm just gonna use splits here to clean up the code. So that's much more readable and less boilerplate. Now to make this catch error function works, we're not gonna use it in here like we did the others, but we're gonna pass it to our router. So here we're gonna import it. So we need to go up one more, Middlewares. Now here it is. You're gonna wrap this function. This is the function we are wrapping, and we need that information in here. So to get this request and response over here, we need this function. So in the router, we get that function, and you're gonna catch the errors, and then you're passing that function down. So this is this function, and then you're passing it down to this function. So now we just need to do it for all of them. just like that. And we also have some create user over here. So now if you save it and we run our app, let's go to our users page. Everything works. Now let's create an error so we can see the result. I'm gonna go to my get users. And here, instead of sending the result back, I'm gonna throw an error. Let's just write a message. So we, oh no, I've been caught by being middleware. So let's try it out. If I refresh my page, so now our function is working. There we go, it's sending us the error. So like this, we can refactor all our async functions, and you can write less code. And we keep it dry, don't repeat yourself, and it's much easier to debug. So this is the power of middlewares. You can modularize your code. You can remove some of the complexity of one function, break it down, and use the middlewares to make your code more readable and easier to debug. This is the stack. It goes from the top to bottom, passing the information down. And the last one on the stack, it should always end or send something. Like in here, we're sending the error message. As I mentioned before, here on the Express page, there are plenty of other middlewares that is really good for us to use, like the compression. This one's gonna compress your response, so it's less data going down to the user. Cookie parser is to be able to read a cookie, for example. Course is to enable your application to talk to other websites. We use Morgan. The motor, you can use it to upload the image. Service static we use is the Express static. We also use the favicon, we're using the body parser, we're using the logger. Here are some other ones. The helmet, it's quite popular. This is gonna add some HTTP headers like security stuff for your application. Passport is a very popular one as well in the Express community for authentication and authorization. The more you work with Express, the more you see the need for using middlewares, and then you can learn or create your own. So I see you in the next lesson.